So, welcome everyone. Welcome, John. So happy to have you today. It's our first webinar of, let's say, the new season 2020 and it's about Japan today. And that's very exciting, I think, for our audience of how to expand into Amazon in Japan. So we usually start this webinar with a fun fact. I know, John, you've been rehearsing that part, so I I'm excited to hear your fun fact to get started.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of so I used to live in Japan, as you know, which is obviously part of the story of this. Um, and obviously, some of the products that we'd see there, they cause if you launch the products in the UK or the US with those English names, it'd be a bit weird. So there's a few drinks related products uh, that kind of they sell with English branding on them. So there's one product, um, it's a drink, and it's called Calpis. So got to be careful how
Interesting.
you say it. Yeah, yeah, but it's not yellow, fortunately. It's like a white color. It's more like a yogurty drink. So I don't know. It's even more concerning, I guess. And then, yeah, there's another one, a sports drink called Pocari Sweat as well. So I, when I first moved to Japan, I couldn't really speak much Japanese, and one of my friends told Japanese friend, he said, "Oh yeah, Pocari, that means animal." So he was telling me it was made from animal sweat, this sports drink that we used to drink after football. So yeah.
Obviously, it's a good joke to make on people
Yeah,
who
well,
don't.
sort of, but I mean, it's kind of got a serious point that if those brands launched their products in the UK or America, then they definitely have to do a rebranding exercise, and we've seen it kind of the other way that you know products. There was one. This isn't a joke by any means. There's a company that sells like breathing products, and in the West they wouldn't. It was called Salin Plus was their product. Now, in the 90s, there was the sarin gas attacks in Tokyo where lots of people died, the terrorist attacks. So obviously to launch a product that helps you breathe under that brand name, that would be a terrible thing to do. So they rebranded it as Halo Plus. They did their homework and made sure that they were doing things properly. So yeah, yeah.
That's already a first point. I know you had the other fun facts, but let's see if we get to that at the end at the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
So thanks for that already first point, which is a learning in itself, fun and a learning. Now let's very shortly about yourself, who you are and what do you do in life, and why are you an Amazon Japan expert?
Sure, yeah. So the agency, we've been going about 3 years. We we've got a small team involved, native Japanese speakers. I myself, as I touched on, I used to live in Japan. I lived in Japan for 5 years, basically teaching English and stuff in government schools there, which was good. My business partner, Neil, he's been selling on Amazon private label stuff for sort of 7, 8, 9 years now. So that was what led us to start the business. He wanted to sell his products in Japan, and yeah, he knew that I lived there, so that's kind of how we got started initially. I helped him sell his products in Japan, and then the agency kind of has come off the back of that, really. So yeah.
Cool. And so do you help companies sort of expand into Japan? And what do you do? Do you do translation? Do you do what's the bulk of what you do?
Yeah, so most of the stuff is helping brands launch into Japan, and everybody that we work with knows and understands Amazon already. Japan is like the last marketplace that people tend to go to. So we're working with kind of experienced Amazon sellers. In terms of our work, there's sort of four main areas that we do. One is market research. So will your product, is Japan a suitable market for your product? Secondly, if the answer comes back yes, then we help them set up their content and brand store pages, all the content side of it, which is kind of we got a hybrid way of doing it. So it's not direct word for word translation. We do the keyword research properly and stuff as well, making sure it appeals to Japanese customers. Then thirdly is advertising. So, sponsored brands, sponsored products, doing that, setting those up and helping to stay in control of them and optimize them. And then lastly, ongoing account management, so customer support, seller support cases,
And
those types of things.
do you handle also advertising for the customers also in Japan, and maybe giving some support on understanding how to advertise? Because I assume there are a lot
Yeah,
of differences.
yeah, exactly. So we help people set up their campaigns and manage them as well. So yeah, we do that.
Okay, and if we start, because some popular people say we should start with why. So why would people want to go in Japan? What's the big whys you would share with people generally saying, okay, why they should go?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very well Amazon Japan. It's been going. I think it launched in '99, so it's a very well established marketplace. It's Japan's the third biggest economy in the world, I think. It's Amazon's fourth largest marketplace after .com, Germany and the UK. So it's a really big market, and uh, there's less competition in some regards for I think in the US especially, a lot of people have kind of know and understand Amazon, and you get people trying to jump on the bandwagon, if you like, which depending on your product category, it can drive prices down to the bottom, whereas people are a bit more intimidated, I guess, by Japan, so that you don't get that level of knowledge there. So yeah, it's we see higher prices kind of thing. Brands that we work with tend to sell for a little bit more in Japan, so it's protecting margins.
And so what's a key success factor, let's say, for Japan? Because I can see the entry barrier is a bit earlier on than in the US, because it's very easy to go in the US. Everybody speaks English and so on. I get a feeling that the barrier entry is much more about like language, cultural stuff, and is much earlier. But then it's easier once you've gone through that. Is that, would you agree with
Yes,
that?
yeah. So I think people are intimidated by Japan, but it's just a language thing. I mean, the culture thing. Yeah, most basically, if your product is good and selling well around the world on Amazon, then fundamentally, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine to sell on Amazon. There's the odd case where a product might not fit Japan culturally or whatever, but Christmas trees, for example, you're not if you're selling Christmas trees, probably don't rush to Japan kind of thing, because there's no culture of Christmas and stuff. It's not a Christian country, so you know. But generally speaking, if a product is selling well on Amazon elsewhere, it'll probably do well in Japan too.
Okay. And I know that some brands we've worked with in the States, for example, they were complaining that a lot of sellers from Japan were going into the US and with very low prices, specifically on the small items, because they could ship the products from Japan to the US. Obviously, the large products had an issue about logistics, but on the small products, and a lot of Americans were complaining about specifically Japanese sellers coming with a lower price. So what I'm hearing from you is actually locally on the market, the prices are probably higher than what you would expect, or that the competition locally is quite lower than you could see from Japanese sellers going in the States.
Yeah. No, I think the competition is there's a wide range of products, but it's yeah it's not as competitive as we see on the US and the UK in terms of number of sellers. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you say? So the why is the main reason is okay. The market is huge. It's the fourth market in the world. Okay, makes sense. What do you see? What are the benefits, or what people will get from it? Is it sales or is it expansion? What do you usually say what the benefits are for them?
Well, I mean, it's sort of two, three things really. One, extra sales. You're not going to be cannibalizing your own market. People who shop on Amazon Japan aren't shopping on Amazon.com or Europe. So, these are entirely new sales for your customers. Obviously, that helps you de-risk your brand. If you're growing your brand, then it adds value to your brand as well. And, it's going to add money to your bottom line as well. These sales in Japan that you're bringing in should be profitable. Obviously, you know what it's like. You might not get instant profits. There's a bit of investment required to set up your listings, and you're starting at the bottom of organic rankings when you first start, so you're having to put a bit of money into advertising your products, but over time it turns into profit. So yeah.
Okay. And we usually sort of pre-in like Amazon specifically in any e-commerce on four aspects: strategic aspect, operations, content, and advertising. If you were to go on those four pillars, let's say, what would you say would be the main uh, issues or challenges specifically to Japan? Like on the strategic part, if we start from there, is like, should your strategy be different than in the other countries, or no, actually it's same as everywhere else, or do you need to tailor it to the Japanese market in terms of how
Um,
you approach it, the pricing, this kind of thing?
yeah, so no, I think, fundamentally, there's what it it's kind of chicken and egg. The brands that we talk with, some of them have got their own strong opinions of how things should be done, and they've worked it to that system themselves in other marketplaces. And we don't push back too hard in those cases. It's fine. Um, we our fundamental strategy, I like it, if you like, when you launch a product, maybe reduce the price a bit to try and the first period is all about trying to gather momentum, getting eyeballs on the listing and optimizing for conversions.
Mhm.
Anything you can do to help that in the first phase is it's and I'm sure that's the same as anywhere else in the world. It's not fundamentally different. So yeah.
Okay, you don't have specific tips or ways to get started in Japan. You don't say, okay, start higher because actually the market is higher in Japan than you would have in the prices in the US. So you can start higher and just test the waters. Is that something which could make sense for brands just to say, okay, um, you can try to be higher because this market is typically higher than the others in terms
Sure. I
of
mean
price?
that would, I mean, that was a different strategy. You sort of testing a different question there. So I mean, I guess in that case, you sort of testing is my product going to be profitable in this marketplace? Um, so you could send a very small batch of products over, spend money on advertising, and if people are willing to buy them at a high price, then that gives you an indication that you should send more in. So yeah. I mean that's a different strategy, but yeah, certainly one that you could do too.
Okay, and on the operations level, like sending stocks, so you have seller and vendor central in Japan, right?
Yeah, there's both. All of our clients are on seller. So
Okay.
the reason behind that is it's we don't have any contacts as such with the vendor managers. So getting an invite, and Japan is kind of, it's a different region. They don't talk to each other like they might do in the EU kind of thing. So without that track record on Japan, it's kind of tricky to get the vendor invites, which is why we most of our clients have gone in on
Okay.
seller.
And in terms of logistics, do you need to have someone helping you to do the logistics, or it's quite easy? You just get the tax registration, URI number, whatever, for to import the products, and it can be sent to FBA. Is that as simple as that, or is it a bit more trickier?
Not quite. There's one extra thing that you need. So you need what's called an importer of record, which is somebody in Japan who's kind of acting as being responsible for your products. And this is very much on the seller central model where the goods remain your goods whilst they're in Japan, right? It's different to if you're actually selling them to Amazon. So I'm talking about the seller model here.
Yeah.
So you need what's called an importer of record, which is somebody that is, acts as being responsible for accepting your goods into Japan when they arrive. And there's various third-party companies that offer this as a service, but yeah, you definitely need to get that in place before you start sending stock, because if you don't have that, it basically gets returned, or yeah,
Mm.
it's creating big problems for you.
Yeah, because in the US, there's a lot of companies offering third party like Prime Legible FBM, like doing the shipping. In Europe, it's starting, but you don't find a lot. Is that a kind of service you can find easily in Japan? If you
Not
have like other dealers and you want to have your warehouse not inside FBA?
Yes, I mean there's sort of third party warehouses that people can use. there's less emphasis on them being, the seller fulfilled prime kind of
Prime, yeah.
thing. So we're not really, yeah, we don't really see any of that kind of taking off
Okay.
at the moment. People are still using the FBA centers
Okay.
primarily.
And how many centers do you have in just top of your mind? Is it like 20, 10,
I
3,
think there's
5?
9, I think,
Okay.
off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
right. Gives an idea of okay. And so when someone is shipping from Europe, he could be having to split his order to different FBA warehouses. What's the habit of the system there?
Yeah, so I mean, you submit your inbound shipments, and yeah, you get told where they go. So, like, if you if you send in different lines of products, then yeah, they could be split up. But you're sending them in bulk to Japan, and then once they've arrived at the customs kind of thing, got through customs, then at that point they'd be split up and sent to the different
Okay.
locations.
And that's probably the guy who's doing the, you said I forgot the name, but he's
The
doing the,
importer of record.
yeah, he would be helping also in this logistics aspect also.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, in some respects, it's just kind of a name on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So they don't have to physically touch the products if they don't want to. So
Okay. It's
again,
just
it
that they, yeah, they know someone to put in jail if something goes wrong.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's good. The French people have some experience about Japanese jails. Um, uh, so on the operations, I had a question on the vendor side. Is it? I know you have less contacts on the vendor side, but is it easy? Like if a company gets an invite or it's a large company, is it easy to find a logistics center which could handle the orders? Because when you're a vendor, obviously you need to be able to deliver every week small quantities, whereas FBA can send vast quantities. So on the vendor side, is it easy to find a third party logistics which could help you with Amazon? Is there a lot of people who know about Amazon and can handle it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, as I say, Amazon's very well developed over there, and the big logistics companies can, they're all used to
Can
dealing
handle
with
it.
it. So yeah, yeah,
Okay.
there's plenty of people that can help with that.
Okay, so if the operation is not a big hassle, it's quite easy to go around it. Cool. Then there's obviously the big bulk of it is a content side. So I assume, like you said, you need to localize your content, translate it in a way that makes sense to customers. Do you see that as a big issue, or is that actually quite simple to overcome?
Um, I mean, yeah, it's we've got lots of experience of doing it, so we know how to do it quite well now. So there are, if you're doing it yourself, make sure that, or you're using somebody else, make sure that they know what they're doing on Amazon. It's not necessarily just a case of translating word for word. As I say, Japan has 3 different alphabets: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So
Very
there are
impressive.
potentially 3 different ways of writing the same word from English. So there's, it's kind of like a big thesaurus kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you so for example, the word a hairbrush. So I don't need one, but hey.
Your joke, not mine.
I, so there's the traditional word, the kanji word, it would be kushi. Now, there's also like a modern, which is an English variation called hairbrushy, which is like the sort of phonetic translation, but it is very widely used. So,
Mhm.
if you're going to be selling hairbrushes, then you need to make sure that you've got both variations in your listing. Then you also need to know which is the dominant one. So, which one should you have in your title, kind of thing, and which one
Okay, it
is.
says you need to know. So you really need to know, like street talk, which of the words from the alphabet or whatever is mostly used, right? So you really need people on the streets, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because if you're not, again, if say if say the hairbrush got, you know, uh, triple the amount of search terms as the traditional word cushy, and you're only bidding on cushy, then you're missing out on 3/4 of potential sales. So it's important to kind of cast your net wide at the start, and make sure you've got the different variations in your product listing, but also when you're setting up your ads as well.
So if we stay on the content, that means the SEO is very important, as on every other Amazon platform. But it's got a level more complexity because you have many words for the same meaning. And like, do you have, are there tools like in many for the other countries, there are tools to find which are the most relevant keywords? You've got Sonar, you've got loads of tools, Helium 10, Jungle Scout, of course. Are those tools already working on Japan or
Not
on the
really,
Japanese?
not really.
Mm.
No. So there's one that we use one. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Asin seed maybe or something, or that might be wrong. But it does keyword lookup on a particular product, so you can kind of get a list of all the keywords that it ranks for a particular ASIN. So you
Okay.
can do that on competitors' products to see what words they're using.
And
So we
is like, yeah, could you find on the Amazon search bar, is it relevant also of, because sometimes you start to write a name, and then if the search bar already pops up with something, normally it means that is the one which is most searched for. Does that work
Yeah, so
also?
that works the same way. So if you're starting to type something, then it'll populate it with what it thinks you're looking for. Yeah, yeah.
So does that mean you have a bit more work because you need to test more because you have less data maybe than what typically the other like languages would have? Does that mean you have to test a bit more about like if you, on your ranking depending on
Yes,
what we've got?
I think you kind of have to spread, cast your net a bit broader at the start because there are so many different variations of the keywords that could be successful. So, yeah, it's
And the architecture is the same, like the backend keywords, the 255 bytes is the same also in Japan. Like the
yes,
rules are the same.
yeah, I think so. I think it used to get double in Japan, but that was because Japanese characters are double byte characters rather than Roman
Ah,
alphabet are single byte characters. But yeah, it's essentially the
okay.
same.
But yeah, okay, you're getting double, but just because you need double space to write the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay, well, okay,
it evens
makes
out.
makes sense, but yeah, it's not a big benefit. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Do you have any like fun stories or tips or things about the content? Because I believe like translation topics of wrong translations are always the best stories. There's always funny. Do you have things about or like tips of what made it very successful on a specific kind of product so that we can grasp the complexity of the hairbrushy thing was quite interesting, but other things where you had the experience with some brands.
Um. So we've got. Just trying to think of a good one. So I guess we're working with a baby food company, and there's like so many different ways to write baby food. Like could be like uh, milk replacement type food, pouches, vegetables, snacks, kind of thing. So this one we've had to cast our net really broadly to kind of and then filter down exactly what types of food within baby food kind of thing to really hone in on what's been working for them. Um, they got quite a broad range of products, so we've we've been kind of targeting the baby food as a very generic keyword, but that's suitable for them because they've got such a broad range that we can send traffic to their store page and then the customer can see all the different types of food that are available and choose accordingly. But if that was a product, if it was like a single one or two or three products, then obviously that approach wouldn't work and we'd have to be more direct and pick our words carefully at the start.
Mm, okay, cool, makes sense. So if we go to our fourth pillar, which is advertising, do you have something specific like on the way? So we've understood that the keywords is a thing, so you will have to list probably a lot of keywords to see which are the ones which are getting the most conversion or the most clicks. Um, but is there a way you do advertising differently? Like I'm thinking about sponsored brands or like things where you can have a slogan or a picture. Is there a way like culturally, we always feel that the advertising and everything in Asia and Japan and China, it's a bit kitschy. It's not very colorful, very, yeah, a bit kitschy. Is that something that like translates on into a way you're doing it on Amazon in Japan?
So I mean, yeah, we you get the same. The sponsored brands and search advertising works the same way in Japan as it does everywhere else. In terms of banner advertising and stuff like that, we do see. So this is something I've not worked out the answer, but it ties in with what you're saying about things being kitschy and stuff. So in Japan, there's a very big tendency for people to really heavily annotate their images, as in Japanese brands and other sellers that are there already. And they'll get an image and they'll cover it in text and bright text, and it'll be yellow here and red here, green here, and it'll be like boom in your face. Now, that's kind of the culture of how advertising is done in Japan. You'll pick up a flyer in the street or a newspaper advert, with a brochure kind of thing for a supermarket, and it's very much in your face, all these bright colors and stuff. And that seems to have transferred onto Amazon, and that's how some sellers write their listings and stuff. But kind of talking to friends in Japan, they say they don't really like that, and they kind of see Amazon as being a bit cleaner and crisper and a bit more not
Japanese friends
not
or
yeah,
British?
Japanese friends, yeah. So not colder, but crisper and cleaner kind of thing. It's kind of, I think, because it's a US company, they've got their theme and they've
The
taken it to
system is,
Japan.
yeah, the system is not very flexible also. So it's like
No,
sponsored
but
products, you have to take the picture of the product. It's only on this. That's why I talked about the sponsored brands. Now you have sponsored video brands also, which is coming up. I don't know if it's already working in Japan, but that's probably where people could have some kitschy stuff.
yeah, no, the sponsored video, it's not there yet as far as I'm aware, but it is coming soon, I think. So yeah,
Well, yeah, it's in Europe. It's starting in Europe, so it should come soon.
yeah.
Um, that's very interesting. One like thing you see as if a product has got the same ASIN in Japan and in Europe or in the US, if it's the same ASIN, a picture which is changed in Japan, if it's not localized, it will appear everywhere. So that's something you have to deal with when you're handling US, specifically US, but also European brands. That sometimes you have those funny pictures, indeed, with a lot of Japanese text, which doesn't appear very quality as doesn't speak quality to like American or European customers. So we can see that their habit also for the main pictures they would put a lot of text on it.
Mhm.
So that's for sure. Like, do you have any? Is there any recipe for success on advertising, or is it very much like any like Amazon advertising where you just have to test and improve and focus on the words which are converting, or is that do you have any like basic rules which are a bit more specific to Japan?
No, I mean it's the same approach as what people use, everywhere else. I think really, first step is to try and learn as quickly as you can what your most dominant keywords are, your most highly converting keywords. You kind of we tend to set up auto campaigns to do that, to try and you know cast our net wide. That's why I keep using that phrase, but it's that's kind of what we do, and then we'll as we see what's working, we'll move those into kind of broad and exact match to hone in and adjust our cost per click so that more of the budget
Okay.
is going to the reliable keywords that we know are proven to work, and then update the listing copy, be that title or bullets to match the best performing keywords, making sure that they're in the title or bullets. So it's reinforcing in the customer's head kind of thing. I've come here searching for this product and it's matching my search term. So it's definitely what I want. So yeah, I think that's the same as other markets really. It's not
Hmm.
it's just
Not nothing specific. Yeah.
yeah, it's just doing it in Japanese.
And so my two other questions on the advertising side is first, do you have like, is there still a lot of people using English words? Because, for example, in Germany, uh, there's some people saying that half of the backend keywords are in English, and that a lot of research is done in English, because a lot of Eastern
Right.
Europe people are going on Amazon Germany specifically. Is that something that you see that Japanese are? But I know that it's not. If you go to Tokyo, not a lot of people speak English. So I don't know. Is that, are they using English words or never? It's
Not
like,
really. No, I mean the only time you might use English is in the brand name. So, if
okay.
you're looking for a particular brand, Nike or Adidas or whatever, then they might use it there. But generally speaking, if it's search term stuff, then they'd be searching in Japanese.
Okay, and on the advertising still, we talked about the search advertising. Do they have a part for display advertising, like the programmatic side, where you can have retargeting campaigns and targeting specific audiences and things like that? Is that also working in Japan?
Yeah, so they've got DSP. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's going there. So again, it's similar to um,
The rest
other
of,
markets.
okay.
Yeah, it's $10,000 per month budget.
Yeah, yeah. And that also has, it's as successful, or do you have any insight of that? Because it can be very successful for larger brands in the other markets. It's got the same kind of pull also in Japan. Do you see
To
any
be honest,
differences there?
we've not really done anything with it. So our most of the companies we've worked with have sort of started small, and
Yeah.
we've just concentrated on the sort of search terms and brand ads so far. So yeah, I don't really have any insight into it yet, but
Yeah, the $10,000, yeah, dollars per month is a threshold here. So you need to make, yeah, a significant amount of sales to be able to bear that kind of amount.
yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
I mean, we've got one of the brands that we work with spend that a month, but they've we put it into search terms rather than DSP at the moment, and then
Yeah.
maybe the next stage is where we move on to that. Stage one is about is Japan a good place to sell their products, kind of thing. And if once we've achieved that and we've got confidence that it is, that we can increase sales, and then that's where DSP I think comes into it.
Makes sense. So, from now on, like, anybody wanting to ask, I'm very excited by Japan. I've got loads of questions for you, John. But like, if anyone has got questions, please feel free to reach out and ask the questions you have, and we'll answer, or John will answer. I'll just read the questions out. Um, One thing I wanted to ask you is, if you were like, if someone has got a wide portfolio and say, okay, should I go to Japan, then what kind of product do you recommend selling? Which ones have got most chances to win on in Japan? Do you have a few tips on that?
Yeah, so I'd say the better developed categories would be sort of homeware, that type of thing. Um, Sports and outdoors is really strong. Um, Cosmetics is strong, but there's quite a lot of compliance requirements around that to be able to sell in Japan. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. It's a strong category, but there's some barriers to entry. I'd say the weaker categories are certainly as things stand, but the growing clothing is not as well developed as it is in other marketplaces, and also grocery, food and grocery. Um, but Amazon seems to be putting resources into growing both of those categories. So yeah, watch this space, I guess.
One question we're having is, are they, I suppose, the customers interested in vitamins and supplements? Vitamin D3. It's a big thing in other markets. What's, I know Asian people are very excited by vitamins generally. So is that a thing in Japan?
Yeah, so we do see a fair amount of supplements for sale on Amazon. Again, what I said before about the compliance. So there's various compliance requirements of what number one, to be able to sell your products in the country. You need to jump through a few hoops for the Ministry of Health kind of thing to make sure your product is fine. And then Amazon are quite restrictive. So I guess this is a good point. Amazon are quite restrictive of what you can claim about your products. So there's quite a lot of health claims that I think there's a lot more freedom in the US and Europe to say various things about a particular product, and you don't get that freedom in Japan. They're very restrictive about it. So
I would challenge that. They're beginning very more and more restrictive with like they can be very difficult, but yeah, like I think Amazon generally is being much more and more sensitive onto what the content is of what people are claiming about their
yeah,
products.
yeah. But in Japan, it's genuinely a level further
Yeah,
up,
okay.
or ahead. It's we not even for other types of products. There's certain phrases and words that we find that we can't say that are I was quite surprised. Normal, fairly normal phrases that they seem to be banned from making any claims in on Amazon Japan.
And is it to a point where you would say, okay, I would not attack the Japanese market because it will be very difficult, except if you're patient and you've got like resources, or do you say no, it's still good? You, you recommend to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I think it wouldn't be top of my list. I think if I'm selling on Amazon uh, in the UK or Europe, I wouldn't make Japan my next marketplace. And I've done some reading about the data behind it and how Japan compares in terms of supplements, and it's nowhere near as popular a category yet as it is in the US and Europe. So you know, it's not it's not a no, but it's not like a go for it tomorrow
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, assess maybe the different costs involved. Okay, makes sense. We have another question about taxes. Can we start selling as individual or use our US company? Do we need to register in Japan?
So you can sell as a US company. You don't need to register in Japan.
Okay,
So
yeah, as in Europe, a US company can sell. Is there any VAT implication such as in Europe and also the US with the taxes?
so there's a couple of things to say on this. One is there's a 2 year limit where, as an overseas company, you're not required to file any taxes. So you get two
Okay.
years of kind of selling. Just you pay your taxes at the point of import, but then you don't pay on the stuff that you sell. Um, so that's 2 years of kind of freedom there, and then there's a threshold of about 80,000 euros, I think, that if you go over that, then you start having to pay, uh, submit your taxes. So
But what happens? They apply VAT on products on
yeah,
prices?
yeah, it's sales tax kind of
Is
thing.
it how much is it?
It's 10%.
Okay, so let's say I'm making 100,000 in Japan. 10% of that is in taxes. So I get that in my bank account. Do I need to pay it in Europe if I'm a European company, or just do I keep it in my bank account?
Keep it in your bank account. Yeah,
Cool. So, and then after 2 years, if I don't reach, let's say I'm making 75,000 euro a year, I still keep it, the 7.5K. I'll keep it in my bank account.
yeah,
Okay, that's quite interesting to start with because that's a 10% extra margin, which can be helpful to.
yeah. Now I think I think the Japanese tax authorities are going to catch up to what's going on. I guess the whole way of selling e-commerce and stuff. It's relatively new in in the time span that governments operate. So yeah, I wouldn't imagine it's going to stay like this forever. But that seems to be the current situation.
Mm. Okay, we had a question. What was the maximum sales per year? That's the 80,000 euros. Sure. I suppose it's a conversion of yens, so it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah,
depending on the conversion rate. Okay,
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Do and like if you have to pay, let's say your business makes more than 80,000, great. Do you need to have a tax advisor? How does that work? Do you have companies which are doing that? Because my experience with Japan is that people don't speak very good English, and it's not very easy. Like, is that something which is easy to find? You can find someone who will help you to do that, or
Um,
not really?
no, it's tricky. I mean, we hunted around for ages to find somebody, but I've got somebody on my contacts book that I can introduce you to if you need any help with that. Then yeah,
You're very helpful, John. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
no problem.
That's very good. So, no questions for now. So I'll go on. Do you have any um, examples of brands you know which did something wrong, or things you've learned and you did wrong, and you claim, or you can claim it's someone else, but it's like, do you have learnings about what typically people do wrong?
Yes, a few, I think. So, well, one particular company, they'd they'd set up their Amazon account themselves in Japan, and they'd gone off and done it and set up their listings and stuff. And then they contacted us one day saying, "Can we help?" Because they'd sent their products and they'd not arrived at Amazon, and could we investigate where they were? So we investigated for them, and it turns out that been they didn't have the importer of record um, when they sent their goods to Japan. So, and the Japanese customs had tried to contact the people on the invoice, using their invoice contact details, and they couldn't get through, so they destroyed all their products basically. And so when we stepped in to try and help find out what had happened, we contacted customs, and they told us that their products had been destroyed. So that was the end of their particular Amazon Japan journey at that point. So don't
Okay.
do that. Don't do that.
Hopefully, the cost per
get
product was not too high.
get your importer of record sorted in advance for sure.
Okay.
In terms of,
It,
I guess, products that haven't quite worked out, so we helped a company. They sell like shoe dryers kind of thing, but they were quite different to a lot of the other shoe dryers on the market. And a lot of their success uh, in the US and Europe had come from partnerships and partnering with kind of um, other companies that sell related products, but they were going at it cold from Japan, so they didn't have those relationships, and we were looking to rely on search terms for them, but because their products were so different and the search term volume was quite low, that it basically didn't turn out very good. There wasn't, yeah, they couldn't generate the sales that they were hoping to.
it's so the learning here is what is that if your product is not very popular or it's not something
Well,
which
it's not necessarily about being popular. Fundamentally, it's a good product. It's just that nobody's looking for that product on Amazon. A lot of the, if you know,
they
using the
would have to
search,
invest a lot to get like people or invest on other search terms which
yeah,
are
well,
not related or
exactly. So
targeting other ASINs. Yeah.
you're trying to catch the buyer's eye when they're buying a related product for something that they're not looking for. So, you're probably going to be, it's more of the route to market for that is more sort of Facebook ads kind of thing, or some of the digital advertising platform. I think where Amazon is successful is when somebody's looking for a particular product and they've got an idea for what that particular product looks like. They type it in the search bar and up pop the products that they're expecting to see, kind of thing. And that's where we see the successes. And yeah, if it doesn't kind of fall into that, then it's not that your product is bad or won't do well. It's just that we need to be a bit broader in thinking how are we going to get relevant people onto this listing if they're not actually searching for this particular product.
Okay. Um, One thing is, I know, do you have Amazon Australia? I was hearing about Amazon New Zealand also, or maybe Amazon Australia being able to ship to New Zealand. It's like Amazon is expanding in the area. Do you feel that things are going to start to make like be a bit more complicated or be a bigger potential of like because when you start in Europe, you can have pan EU. Now the UK is moving out of pan EU, but you still have like, and it's going into Sweden. It's already in Holland. Probably Poland, Czech Republic will come. So we can see that it's expanding in terms of potential. Do you see that something? Because Australia is obviously very far away from Japan, but do you see that something will come into like in terms of expansion around and become a bigger market, or not really?
Yes, I think there are you as Asia seems to have, if you're selling on Singapore, Australia, and Japan, then your account is kind of connected at some level on to those three countries. But it's not going to be like it is in the EU because the regulation requirements are so different. So I can't see it being connected in that way just
You
yet.
don't have warehouses being shared or products being shipped to one from one
Not
place to
no
another.
no not really. It's geographically it's
It's
disconnected. I
di-
mean, it
it's
might it might change if they Singapore, Malaysia type thing, Thailand, maybe those countries are kind of more geographically connected. So if they were to branch out into those markets, then you might see something around there. But especially Japan, it's an island nation, isn't it? So, yeah, it's yeah,
a bit like the UK, right?
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're
had
not too
had to agree.
dissimilar.
And in terms of connections between specifically the US and Japan, do you see like those connections growing these days or not specifically? Like, um, I get the impression sometimes that they're trying to grow. They always say, okay, growing internationally is very simple. My experience is that it's not so simple, but I can see they're trying to bridge things between Japan and US. Did you see any things happening there, or from one side, a lot of brands are worried about trans-border sales and sales coming from Japan and going to the US, vice versa. But it could be seen as a potential also of being located or strong in the US and being able to go in Japan. Do you see anything in that direction or not?
Yeah, so Amazon are putting more resources into helping people expand overseas, especially through seller. Um, they're making it easier for you to add other regions to your account now. So, it's very easy to add Japan as a new region onto a seller account if you're selling in the US or Europe already. They've got there's a um, few people that work out of Seattle that are kind of responsible for helping push US sellers into Japan, kind of thing as well. There's nobody in the EU yet in that role, but speaking to the reps that work out of Seattle, it seems that they're going to be having a team in Europe as well doing the
Mm.
same thing. So yeah, they're very Amazon are pushing global expansion. Yeah.
They do have a pan Europe or like a new countries expansion team for Sweden and for Holland. They've we've talked with them and they're specifically pushing brands to go in those new markets. So I wouldn't be surprised they had a team based in Luxembourg also doing the same. Would make sense.
Yeah.
Um, That's well. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any other questions from our patient crowd. Um, I think that was very insightful. If anybody's interested in more information, where can they reach you,
Sure.
John?
So we got a website, risingsuncommerce.com, all one word. Um, so yeah, if you go onto that, there's lots of information on there. We've got a seller guide that you can download. We offer a product opportunity report, which helps you understand if Japan might be a suitable market for your product. So if any people on the webinar are interested in getting one of those, then I'm happy to do one at half price if they mention, they heard about us on the webinar. So they usually cost $149, but we will do one at 75 for you. So yeah.
Cool. It's Rising Sun Commerce, right?
risingsuncommerce.com.
.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote it down in the chat box for everyone. Well, that's great. Thank you very much, John. We've
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
under the hour, so that's great. Very efficient. Well done. And we'll meet everyone in 2 weeks for a new webinar.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jerome.
Have a
Bye for
great
now.
evening. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.